For today's review, we are looking at Bizarro and Batzarro. And before I talk about the accessories and the figures, let's take a quick look at the data profile cards, and let's start with Bizarro. As you can see with both of these cards, it does feature comic book artwork of both of the characters, and for Bizarro, you just have an image of him being himself. And on the backside of the card, you do have your usual read-up for who the character is. His real name is unknown, which is not entirely true because his real name is just Bizarro. I don't think he has a secret identity of any kind. Bizarro is a Frankenstein-like monster with a heart of gold. Although he was originally created by Lex Luthor, he has gone on to prove that he has a moral character far superior to that of his mad scientist father. Possessing many Kryptonian abilities, albeit warped and twisted, this heroic clone of Superman fights for truth, justice, and the Bizarro way. That's a pretty accurate description of who this character is. And let's move on to Batzarro. And as you can see for the image of his card, he is breaking out of chains. And on the backside, the read-up is very short. His real name is unknown, which is not entirely true as well because it's just Batzarro. And it reads, created by Mr. M, because I don't know how to pronounce that name correctly, and the Joker as a playmate for Bizarro, Batzarro is a twisted version of the Dark Knight. That's pretty simple. And that is the data profile cards for both of these characters. And something I do want to mention, just for fun, there is a Bizarro Justice League. There are Bizarro versions of Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, and I think there's one for Aquaman. I don't remember who was on this team. There is a full Justice League team here for this Bizarro universe, right? So it would be cool if we had an entire display of these characters from this line. Just something I just want to mention for fun, which I wish would happen, but I don't think it will. Alright, let's move on to the accessories, and let's start with Bizarro. So for Bizarro, he comes with two open gesture hands, as you can see right here. And he also has his fist hands, so that's neat. And then he also comes with the thing that he wears on his neck that says Bizarro number 1. So those are his accessories. As for Batzarro, all he comes with are just two item holding hands. There are no items for him to hold, unless you give him like the rope accessory that was from the Dark Knight's Return Batman figure, which will work with these hands, because as you can see with both of these figures, they are just reusing the same body bucks from those two versions of the character. And he also has his two fist hands, so in total, both figures have 4 interchangeable hands. And for the last item in this box, it is the base that is included for both of these figures. And the base here is a reuse of the same one that came with the Devastator versus Superman 2-pack. And the only difference between this one and that one, from what I can tell, are just the colors of the rocks. So for that version, it was a whiter color to represent snow. And for this one, it is a darker color to look more like rocks, I guess. I'm not too sure what's going on here, but it is the same exact base. But it's nice that they included it anyways, so you can have them displayed in some sort of like action pose where maybe they're fighting against each other, whatever you want to do. And surprisingly, these two figures do not come with any DC figure stands. You know, the usual circle one is a Spawn one, but it's usually these. So that is actually surprising to me because they always give them to every DC figure. So why is it that they did not include them with these? And a quick thing that I also want to mention as well. One thing I like about these 2 packs, especially the more recent ones, is the fact that they have these backgrounds that are included in the box. Now, of course, it's just a cardboard display, but you could use them for, you know, photography of some kind if you want to. So it's nice that the box has a background now that looks beautiful compared to, you know, the earlier 2 packs where these backgrounds were pretty much just like a generic, you know, background with nothing. So that's nice. And that's pretty much the last thing I want to mention. And that is everything in the box. That's all you get. 2 figures, some accessories, and the base and the cards. And let's move on to the aesthetics now for both of these figures. Since both of these figures are reusing the same exact body buck as their Dark Knight's Return counterparts, there's not a lot of new stuff on here. So The only new stuff that they change is basically the emblem and their head sculpts, and of course the color of their suits. And let's just talk about those tiny little changes, and let's start with Bizarro. So as you can see with the S emblem, they did retool it, so the S is facing like a backwards sort of look, which is pretty cool. And I also like the fact that they actually kept this sculpted, because they could have easily just printed this on and just called it a day, but I'm glad that they did not do that. And for his head sculpt, it is a pretty good Bizarro head sculpt. You can tell that he's very happy because he has a best friend now, so he's not alone anymore. And that's actually kind of sad that he was always alone for a while until they created Batzarro for him. Why am I getting emotional? Actually, I am getting emotional. Yeah, he has a best friend now, so yeah, he's really happy. And that head sculpt is actually pretty good. And for the rest of his suit, it is in this dark purple color. It's in this nice purple color. Let's just put it that way. And for the rest of the details, you do have the boots down here. You got the belt. And on the back side, you do have the sculpted plastic cape. And for the S emblem, it is also flipped around. So that's a nice detail right there. And I just knocked his best friend down. That's okay. But yeah, that's pretty much the only changes on here is just the colors and the head sculpt and all that stuff. And now let's move on to Batzarro, who has fell over. As you can see with Batzarro, he does have a really interesting head sculpt because you don't see his eyes. His eyes are just covered. All you see is his mouth. So I wonder, how the heck does this guy even see when he's walking around? I'm assuming he just has the ability to see. And for his bat emblem, it is upside down. Now, this part is kind of lazy, not the sculpting of this. You see that sculpting behind it? I remember when this was revealed, I was like, why did they not get rid of that back part? Did they leave it there on purpose? I'm not too sure. I guess they did because this is also part of the mold of the figure, so it makes sense to not get rid of it, but it just looks really weird how it's like, you can tell that it's originally supposed to be painted all black in this sort of outline, but then they were like, well, we got to flip it upside down, so yeah, it does look a little bit wonky, but nevertheless, you know, at least it's all sculpted, so that's nice. And for his belt, I'm actually glad that they did retool a little bit here. So let's take a look at the belt that is on the original figure, The Dark Knight Returns Batman. Now, this is not the original one. This is the collector edition one. And as you can see, the belt is not exactly the same. They did retool the belt area of the figure, so that's actually nice. That is actually different. So for the one on Batzarro, he has this middle part right here. He also has the pouches, and they're actually sculpted in a different way. So I like that detail. I'm happy that they actually changed some stuff. And as you can see on the back side there, it does connect all the way to the back. And then for the rest of the figure, it is, of course, the same legs, same details. And for the cape, it is also the same cape sculpt. And I also like the under part of the cape having this bluish color. Well, not blue, it's like a grayish color. So it does kind of match the source material. So that's not bad. And that is pretty much it for the details of this figure. Oh, wait, one more thing. Let's take a look at his teeth. My goodness. Look at those beautiful teeth. Okay, no. It just reminds me of the Batman who laughs. But he's also grinning happily because, you know, they're best friends, right? Batman and Superman. Well, in this case, it's not Batman and Superman. It's Bizarro and Batzarro. So yeah, of course they're happy because they got each other. All right, let's move on to the articulation for both of these figures. Now, I have covered the articulation for this guy before, but I might as well just talk about it again just to show why I don't like the articulation for these two figures, because they're very limiting. So in terms of how they move, it's pretty much identical almost. So for Bizarro, his arms can go out that much. He can swing his arms back and forth all the way. He does have a single jointed articulation right here. He has a rotation, but it's really freaking tight, as you can see right there. He does not have a bicep cut, so the rotation is down here on the arm. For his hands, there is a swivel. There's also wrist articulation, if it does work. Give me a second. It does not want to work. Actually, it does not want to budge. It is really tight. But there is wrist articulation. And for his torso, this is the part that I don't like about this figure mold. The torso part for both of these figures are very stiff. Even on the other copies that I have of this exact mold, they don't like to move. So this upper part of the torso does not want to move. The bottom part does not want to move. I have a feeling that if I do heat it up, it will loosen, but I haven't gotten the time to do that for both of these figures yet, which is always a problem. I don't know why I don't ever fix this before I do a review on these action figures, but it should be able to rotate, right? There is a little bit of movement right there. Now, leaning forward, this body buck, not great for that when it comes to the torso. He's not going to be leaning forward anytime soon. Now, for his head sculpt, he can look up. He can look down, so that's good. He also has the ability to turn left and right, tilt his head side to side. So, yeah, we're in business there with the head sculpt. For his legs, he can do the splits. Not entirely, but he can still spread his legs out pretty decent. Kicking upward, that's all you're going to get. Double jointed in the legs. Okay, that side is not working. What about the other side? Okay, his double jointed is not working. They are stiff, but there should be double joint right there, as you can see with the legs. And then for the articulation of his feet, there is movement, there is a swivel, there is toe articulation. And last but not least, is there die swivels on this Superman. Or not Superman, Bizarro. Man, I'm getting the names mixed up. There is rotation. Actually, that's good. It's loose. Wow, for once, the die swivels actually are working. So there's Bizarro. And now let's take a look at Batzarro. Okay, he's going to fall. So for Batzarro, very similar. His arms can move all the way out like that. He can swing them back and forth, no problems. He does have a single articulation. He also has a swivel, which is very tight. For his head sculpt, he can look up. He can't really look down. He can turn his head left and right. He can tilt his head side to side. So the articulation of the head sculpt is decent, minus the fact that he cannot really look down. For his torso, there is rotation on this one. Wow, it actually moves. Okay, that's good. Leaning forward? Nope. Leaning back? Nope. And for his waist, it is also super tight, but it should be able to rotate. And for his legs, as you can see right here, let me just zoom in, there is a die cut, which is very rare for Mcfarlane figures. And you may be wondering, why is there a die cut there? Well, the original figure was part of a build wave where you can build a horse. And usually figures that have the die cuts are meant to ride on a vehicle, or in this case, a horse. So that's why they have die cuts. If they don't give them die cuts, it's usually because those figures will never have any sort of vehicle to go with them. So that is the reason why there are die cuts on this figure. Now for his legs, can he spread out? Yeah, it's a pretty decent spread. Can he kick out? Not the best when it comes to kicking. And then there is double jointed, so it works on this one. You do have articulation down here with, the feet, swivel, and articulation with toes. And one last thing I forgot to point out, there's swivel with his hands. And of course, articulation at the wrist, right? It does not want to work. Sadly, the wrist articulation on both of these figures do not want to work. They're there. You can see the joint. They're just really stiff on my copies, which is quite sad. So, yeah, maybe next time I should probably heat up the joints on these figures before I actually do reviews on them, so we don't have these problems. And that is pretty much all the articulation for both of these figures. Very simple, but also not the greatest when it comes to action poses, because they are quite limiting with what you can do with them, unfortunately. He's going to have issues with the kicking, right? So if you're trying to do an action pose where he's kicking somebody, you can't really do that because of the fact that his belt is also hindering the articulation. So it is a bummer. This is why I wish there was an updated body buck for both of these figures with this sort of bulky, muscular design. But sadly, they went back with the older body bucks that they created. All right, that is pretty much it for the articulation. Let's move on to some comparisons. And let me just put these figures on this side so we can actually have room for one figure to go on the other side. Here they are with Supergirl. And one thing I want to ask, did you guys see the Supergirl trailer? I don't know what to make of it. It looks interesting. So, let me know in the comments below what you think about that trailer. And also, Lobo, that little quick second of seeing him, played by Jason Momoa. I can't wait to see how he plays Lobo, because I know that was one of the characters that he wanted to play initially before Aquaman. So hopefully he nails Lobo's character in this movie. All right, that is the first comparison here with these two next to Supergirl. And for the next DC Multiverse figure, here he is with the Build-A-Figure Beast Boy. And this is just a tease at what we are going to be looking at next in terms of the build wave. So get ready for that. And yeah, they don't look bad together. I like the fact that this guy is just really tall. So there he is with Batzarro and Bizarro. And of course, here he is next to the Dark Knight's Return Batman. I don't have the Superman out. I wish I did, but there he is with at least the Batman. So this is the collector edition one, just for clarification, not the original one from the Build-A-Horse wave. And for some non-DC Multiverse figures, here he is next to the Deviant. I mean, here they are next to the Deviant, not here he is. Yeah, they could cross over, I suppose. So there's a Deviant. And for the last comparison, let me just move them slightly to the side. Here they are next to Mecha Spawn. Yeah, he should be bigger. I don't think he's supposed to be that small. It just feels weird that he's like smaller than Batzarro and Bizarro, but it is what it is, unfortunately. And there's Mecha Spawn. And that is pretty much the comparisons with these two figures. And if you found today's review of Bizarro and Batzarro informative, do give this video a like. If you want to subscribe to the channel for more action figure content and whatever else I do on here, it would be much appreciated. And with that said, take care, and I will see you in the next video.